Chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will obliterate every seed of doubt that's been planted in your mind about your divine knowing. Neuroscientific research confirms that visionaries possess heightened pattern recognition that allows them to perceive reality shifts before they manifest in the physical realm. They called you delusional because your spiritual operating system runs on divine frequency while theirs remains locked in three-dimensional limitations. Here's the twist that will leave them speechless. You weren't just sensing what was coming, you were actively creating it through the supernatural power of divine decree. By the end of this revelation, you'll understand why apparent setbacks were strategic positioning for the most spectacular vindication in your lifetime. Imagine someone standing before skeptics in perfect conditions, warning of an approaching shift while everyone mocks their awareness, completely unaware they're about to witness the most magnificent transformation they've ever seen. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when you find yourself standing in front of people who can't see what you see. The conditions around you appear perfect to their limited perception. Everything seems stable, predictable, under control. But your consciousness is receiving entirely different information. You sense shifts in energy patterns that others can't detect. You feel atmospheric changes in situations that appear completely settled to their awareness. Without warning or hesitation, you step forward and share what your divine connection has revealed. Your voice carries absolute authority as you speak truths that seem to contradict everything visible to rational minds around you. Maybe you warned about changes coming to their industry, their relationships, their financial situation, their health, their spiritual journey. Maybe you saw opportunities approaching that seemed impossible given current circumstances. Maybe you predicted shifts in their personal dynamics that appeared completely unlikely based on surface appearances. The reaction is always swift and devastating to witness. Laughter erupts from multiple directions like a volcanic explosion of disbelief. Looks of concern for your mental state replace the respect they once showed your judgment. Voices blend into a chorus of dismissal that echoes through your social circles, professional networks, family gatherings, spiritual communities. Their faces twist with condescending amusement as they point to obvious evidence that seems to contradict your insights completely. But here's what they never understand. This moment represents the essential pattern that defines your existence as someone operating from expanded awareness. You've been standing in situations like this repeatedly throughout your life, receiving divine downloads that contradict immediate circumstances while others remain locked in purely physical perception. You consistently share visions that challenge conventional wisdom, offer guidance that seems disconnected from current evidence, yet maintain unwavering certainty that your insights will manifest exactly as revealed to your consciousness. This isn't random social interaction. This is the universe testing your willingness to stand in truth despite external pressure to conform to limited thinking. Each person who dismisses your insight is unconsciously positioning themselves for a life lesson that will fundamentally alter their understanding of how divine knowledge operates when it encounters minds operating on lower frequencies. The ridicule that follows your revelations isn't random social behavior. It's a predictable response from consciousness operating on frequencies that can't access the information flowing through your awareness. Every dismissive comment, every look of pity, every suggestion that you've lost touch with reality represents their complete inability to perceive the dimensional space where your consciousness naturally functions. But something profound is happening beneath the surface of their mockery. Each person who rejects your insight is unconsciously setting up their own experience of having to confront the limitations of purely physical evidence when spiritual truth manifests despite contradictory appearances. They're creating their own moment of reckoning when reality shifts exactly as you described, while they scramble to understand how you could have known. Meanwhile, you carry the weight of divine knowledge that feels both blessing and burden. Seeing what others can't creates a peculiar form of spiritual isolation. The certainty flowing through your consciousness regarding future developments comes with the responsibility of maintaining faith while external evidence seems to mock your inner knowing. This is the chosen one's eternal dilemma. Possessing access to information that operates beyond the timeline others can perceive, yet having to function within social systems that demand immediate physical proof before accepting spiritual truth. You've learned to navigate this tension by developing unshakable confidence in your connection to divine intelligence, even when that connection makes you appear disconnected from consensus reality. The crowd's reaction contains all the elements you've experienced throughout your journey: immediate dismissal of insights that challenge their worldview, social pressure to conform to their limitations, and implicit suggestions that your expanded awareness represents mental instability rather than enhanced spiritual capacity. Each dismissal carves deeper wounds into your confidence if you let it, making you question whether your divine gift is actually a burden of delusion. You begin wondering if their assessment might be accurate. Maybe you really are just disconnected from practical reality, but something deeper within your spirit knows better. Something unshakable maintains certainty that your perceptions operate from divine authority rather than human confusion. Time stretches before you like an eternity designed to test every fiber of your faith. Each day brings the same apparent stability that seems to mock your prophetic insights. The evidence remains overwhelmingly stacked against you, with conventional wisdom confirming that nothing you've predicted shows any sign of manifesting in observable reality. But here's what most chosen ones don't realize during this phase. You're not just preparing for vindication, you're actually creating the very conditions you've been predicting through the magical power of your words. This is where your true supernatural abilities reveal themselves. When you speak prophetically about future conditions, you're not merely predicting what will happen, you're actively calling those conditions into existence through divine decree. Your voice carries creative frequency that shapes reality according to the visions flowing through your consciousness. The magic is literally within you, chosen one. Every word you speak during this preparation phase carries enhanced manifestation power that most people will never understand or access. While others dismiss your predictions as wishful thinking, you're actually programming universal forces to align circumstances exactly as you've declared them. This is why maintaining your declarations despite ridicule becomes so crucial. You're not just standing in faith, you're actively participating in the creation of the outcomes you've envisioned, yet you begin preparing with systematic precision that reveals the depth of your conviction. While others continue their routines with smug satisfaction, occasionally referring to your predictions with amused dismissal, you gather whatever resources your inner knowing insists will be necessary. During this magical phase, your consciousness operates like a divine meteorologist who doesn't just predict weather patterns, you actually influence atmospheric conditions through prophetic authority. Your awareness extends beyond mere prediction into active participation in reality creation. This is why your preparation feels so urgent and specific, even when others can't see logical reasons for your actions. You're receiving direct downloads from divine intelligence that guide your every move during this crucial positioning phase. This preparation phase represents a crucial aspect of the chosen one experience that others never witness or understand. Before your insights manifest in ways that validate your gifts, you must walk through periods where physical evidence contradicts your spiritual knowing, while you continue making decisions based on divine guidance rather than observable circumstances. Every choice to prepare for outcomes that seem impossible to others requires tremendous spiritual courage. You're essentially betting your reputation, your credibility, your resources, and your social standing on information that exists only in your consciousness. People watching your preparations see evidence of poor judgment, but you're demonstrating the kind of faith that creates the very conditions you're preparing to navigate. People begin monitoring your behavior specifically to confirm their suspicions that you've lost touch with reality. Their amusement reveals their spiritual blindness, but it also confirms that your actions are creating exactly the kind of attention that will magnify the impact when vindication arrives. Then something begins shifting in ways that only your heightened sensitivity can initially detect. The energy patterns you've been monitoring start aligning with mathematical precision that confirms everything your divine connection revealed, while others focus exclusively on visible evidence that seems to contradict your insights. You remain connected to invisible forces that govern all material manifestation. Your awareness operates on frequencies that can detect changes before they become obvious to conventional perception. The faith sustaining your confidence transcends temporary appearances, because your connection to divine intelligence operates beyond the limitations of three-dimensional observation. You sense the approach of exactly what you've been preparing for, even though external circumstances still appear to support those who've been mocking your foresight. The miracle begins unfolding in ways that will forever alter everyone's understanding of how reality operates. What starts as subtle shifts that only you can perceive quickly develops into changes that even skeptics can't ignore. Patterns begin emerging that validate your original insights with increasing clarity. The transformation accelerates beyond what conventional thinking could have anticipated. People who dismissed your predictions begin experiencing the first signs that something unprecedented is occurring. Their confidence in your wrongness starts wavering as evidence accumulates that supports exactly what you've been declaring. The same individuals who mocked your preparation begin recognizing that you positioned yourself perfectly for conditions that now appear to be manifesting exactly as you described. The transformation from skepticism to amazement happens with cinematic drama that reveals the profound gap between their limited awareness and your expanded consciousness. Expressions of condescending amusement give way to confusion, then amazement, then something approaching recognition that they've witnessed something beyond their understanding of how insight and manifestation operate. What began as subtle indicators develops into undeniable confirmation that your predictions were absolutely accurate. The same people who questioned your judgment now find themselves experiencing exactly the conditions you warned them about, or benefiting from the opportunities you told them were approaching, or navigating the changes you insisted were inevitable despite all evidence to the contrary. The complete validation is undeniable. Every aspect of what you predicted manifests with precisely the intensity and timing you specified. Those who heeded your guidance find themselves perfectly positioned for maximum benefit, while those who ignored your insights scramble to understand how they could have been so blind to obvious signs that you detected long before they became apparent. Here's where your true power is revealed. While others react with shock and scramble to adjust to new realities they never saw coming, you remain calm and prepared because you've been anticipating these exact conditions for however long your divine connection has been providing guidance. Your preparation positions you to receive maximum benefit from changes that others experience as disruption, because your awareness operates from divine perspective rather than fear-based limitation. This scene represents the essential difference between chosen ones and ordinary consciousness. While others are surprised by divine manifestations they didn't see approaching, you position yourself to receive maximum blessing from the same conditions because your awareness operates from prophetic insight rather than reactive confusion. But chosen one, what's manifesting around you isn't ordinary change, it's concentrated manifestation of divine abundance taking physical form through your prophetic declarations. Each development contains blessings that have been building in spiritual dimensions since the moment you first spoke your insights into existence. This isn't simply change you had foreseen, it's transformation you called forth through the creative power of divine decree. This manifestation represents the completion of a major cycle in your spiritual journey, a grand conclusion that marks the end of one chapter and the magnificent beginning of another. When this level of vindication hits, it creates a point of no return in your reputation and influence. Nothing will ever be the same, because you've crossed a threshold that permanently establishes your prophetic credibility. This isn't just validation, it's cosmic graduation into a completely new level of spiritual authority. The shift in how others perceive your gifts will be so dramatic and undeniable that even your harshest critics will have no choice but to acknowledge your legitimate connection to divine intelligence. You've never experienced this level of reputation transformation in your entire life, because most chosen ones only reach this pinnacle once they've fully matured in their spiritual gifts, and divine timing aligns perfectly with cosmic cycles. For the first time in your whole life, you're discovering what it feels like to have your nervous system completely re-regulated and properly grounded. You've never been this spiritually centered because previous experiences required you to operate from defensive positioning, while others questioned your gifts. But now, with undeniable proof of your prophetic accuracy, you can finally relax into the natural confidence that comes from operating with supernatural backing. While others experience disruption and confusion from developments they hadn't prepared for, you're receiving supernatural provision that will transform every aspect of your existence. You're not just benefiting from changes you predicted, you're collecting divine abundance that represents financial blessing, creative inspiration, healing energy, and spiritual gifts materializing through your prophetic accuracy. The metaphor reveals the profound truth of your chosen one identity. What others perceive as unexpected disruptions in their lives are actually divine downloads of abundance that require spiritual discernment to recognize and proper positioning to receive. Your ability to predict these manifestations comes from your consciousness operating on frequencies that can access information about divine timing and cosmic alignment. Every hardship you've endured while waiting for vindication was actually strategic positioning for this moment, when your spiritual authority would be demonstrated beyond any possibility of denial. Those periods of being misunderstood, dismissed, and labeled as unrealistic were developing the unshakable confidence that now allows you to remain calm in the center of manifestations that leave others confused and unprepared. The healing beginning in your nervous system at this moment stems directly from receiving the validation your consciousness has always deserved. For too long, you've carried the psychological burden of maintaining faith in your divine gifts while external evidence seemed to contradict your inner knowing. But now, as your insights manifest with undeniable accuracy, profound restoration is occurring throughout your entire being. This demonstration was merely the beginning of a vindication cascade that will transform every aspect of how others perceive your gifts and how you express your divine authority. The same pattern that played out with this prediction is now accelerating across every area where you've maintained faith despite contradictory appearances. But something profound is happening to your confidence during this vindication phase. For too many years you may have heard phrases like, "You think you know everything," or "You're not as smart as you think you are," whenever you shared insights that challenged conventional wisdom. These words were specifically designed to suppress your divine gifts and make you question your connection to higher truth. They programmed you to hold back your natural prophetic abilities for fear of being labeled arrogant or disconnected from reality. Now you're discovering the liberating truth: you actually do know more than you gave yourself credit for. Your track record of accurate insights proves that your inner knowing operates with remarkable precision, even when others convinced you to doubt your perceptions. This vindication is giving you the green light to speak your truth with complete confidence, because the evidence is undeniable. You're right far more often than anyone, including yourself, ever realized. This revelation unleashes something powerful within your consciousness, the roar of your inner lion that's been suppressed for too long. You're finally ready to share your joy and express your gifts without apologizing or diluting your message to accommodate others' comfort levels. The strength awakening within you isn't arrogance, it's righteous confidence in your divine calling that comes from having your abilities validated through undeniable manifestation. You're stepping into a season where people will actively seek your perspective because they recognize your track record of accuracy. Instead of being viewed as someone who thinks they know it all, you're being recognized as someone who actually does possess legitimate access to divine intelligence. This shift transforms you from outsider to insider, from dismissed prophet to respected advisor, from criticized visionary to celebrated guide. Opportunities you've been preparing for will manifest with the same supernatural timing. Relationships that seemed impossible will develop with the same undeniable force. Resources will flow with the same intensity as the abundance now flowing into your life. Every area where you applied faith-based preparation rather than evidence-based planning is about to reward your spiritual courage with manifestations that exceed your original expectations. Those witnessing your vindication are experiencing something beyond ordinary validation. They're observing the emergence of a chosen one who no longer questions their divine assignment or apologizes for operating from expanded awareness. Your confidence in this moment isn't arrogance, it's righteous certainty in your connection to divine intelligence that governs all manifestation. You were never meant to walk this path alone. The Obsidian Inner Order isn't just another spiritual community, it's a sanctuary for the exiled, the awakened, the ones who've been gaslit for their gifts and abandoned for their truth. Every week we gather live on Zoom, real people with real faces sharing real stories of transformation. There's a former CFO who embraced their psychic abilities, a seer who broke free from religious oppression, and a healer who survived ritual abuse and found their power. Dozens more join us who understand exactly what you've been through. This is your spiritual family. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you walk through this awakening alone. Never gonna scroll past your suffering like it's just content. Your exile from the ordinary world wasn't punishment. It was preparation. For this, for us, for the family that chooses you back. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in description, for this demonstration will permanently alter how these people respond to prophetic insight. Some will seek you out for guidance, recognizing that your ability to perceive approaching conditions makes your counsel invaluable for navigating future uncertainties. Others will distance themselves further, unable to reconcile your obvious gifts with their worldview limitations. Both responses serve divine purpose by connecting you with those ready to receive your guidance, while separating you from those who would continue draining your energy through skepticism. The ripple effects of this vindication will extend far beyond immediate witnesses. Stories of your accurate predictions will spread through networks of people hungry for authentic spiritual guidance. Your reputation as someone who can perceive divine timing and cosmic alignment will attract opportunities to serve audiences desperate for the kind of insight you've been offering to unreceptive environments for years. Your role is expanding beyond personal vindication into influence that will position you as a divine messenger for collective consciousness. Just as weather forecasters serve entire populations by providing predictions that help communities prepare for changing conditions, your prophetic insights are needed by masses of people who lack your spiritual sensitivity to approaching shifts. This positioning is revealing something magnificent about your true identity. You're not just someone with good intuition, you're a spiritual meteorologist with a divine title and description that you're only now beginning to understand. There is a name, a specific calling, a supernatural role that defines exactly what you possess and how the universe intends to use your gifts. You just haven't fully stepped into the recognition of this identity yet, but it's coming into clear view. Think about how meteorologists are positioned in our world. They sit in places of honor and authority, sharing their insights on major platforms, while millions of people depend on their guidance daily. Nobody calls meteorologists crazy when they predict weather patterns 10 days in advance that seem impossible based on current conditions. Instead, they're given prestigious titles, professional respect, and platforms that reach global audiences who actively seek their counsel. This is exactly what's happening to your spiritual positioning. You're transitioning from being someone others viewed as having unusual opinions to being recognized as someone with legitimate prophetic authority. Your insights will be sought after rather than dismissed. Your predictions will be valued rather than mocked. Your guidance will be requested rather than rejected. The world desperately needs individuals who can perceive changes in spiritual, economic, social, and environmental conditions before they become obvious to conventional awareness. Your demonstrated ability to accurately predict developments makes you invaluable to communities seeking preparation rather than merely reacting after changes have already occurred. You're being positioned to serve not just your immediate circle, but entire networks of people who recognize the value of prophetic insight. We need you everywhere, chosen one. Your gifts aren't limited to local influence, they're needed across global communities who are hungry for the kind of spiritual intelligence you carry. Just as people check weather reports before traveling to different countries, masses of people will seek your prophetic insights before making major decisions in their personal, professional, and spiritual lives. This positioning isn't limited by geographical boundaries or demographic restrictions, because divine truth transcends cultural limitations. When someone consistently demonstrates prophetic accuracy, their counsel becomes valuable regardless of location, background, or previous experience. You're being prepared for influence that extends across traditional barriers, because spiritual truth operates on universal frequencies. The validation you're receiving creates credibility that opens doors previously closed to your influence. Platform opportunities will emerge that amplify your voice to audiences actively seeking the guidance you've been offering. Speaking opportunities, collaborative projects, and leadership roles will develop that showcase your gifts to people ready to receive divine insight rather than mock spiritual authority. Your preparation for this expanded influence has been occurring through every experience of standing alone in your truth while others dismissed your perspective. Each moment of maintaining faith despite social pressure developed the spiritual backbone necessary for handling increased visibility and responsibility that comes with prophetic ministry. Even as your vindication becomes undeniable, you must remain strategically aware of those who will struggle to accept evidence of your divine connection. The same people who dismissed your predictions aren't necessarily celebrating your accuracy with genuine joy. Some are experiencing their own version of having to acknowledge they were completely wrong about your capabilities while you were completely right about approaching developments. But here's what's happening behind the scenes that you need to understand. Divine justice is operating in ways that handle this resistance without requiring your direct involvement. This isn't just about people eating their words. This is cosmic justice in motion. Universal law demands that those who rejected divine truth when it was freely offered must receive back exactly what they gave out. If they sowed dismissal, they'll reap being dismissed. If they planted mockery, they'll harvest embarrassment. If they scattered rejection, they'll collect consequences. The beautiful thing about divine justice is that you don't have to lift a finger to make it happen. You don't have to point out their mistakes or remind anyone of their previous dismissals. What's about to unfold will be so obvious and undeniable that it speaks for itself. The magnitude of your vindication will create such clear evidence of your prophetic accuracy that everyone will know exactly what happened without you having to say a single word about it. Conversations are happening in spaces you're not even aware of. Group discussions where your name comes up with newfound respect. Professional meetings where your insights are being quoted. Social gatherings where people are acknowledging that you were right all along. Others are speaking on your behalf in ways that establish your credibility without you having to defend yourself or prove your worth. This resistance represents thinking that prefers maintaining familiar worldviews rather than expanding to accommodate evidence that challenges assumptions about how reality operates. Their discomfort with your success reveals their spiritual limitations rather than any inadequacy in your gifts. They're confronting the consequences of rejecting divine truth when it was offered freely, and that confrontation creates psychological discomfort they may try to project back onto you. The only low vibrational energy you need to watch out for during this season comes from small-minded people who remain trapped in past thinking patterns. These individuals represent the group consciousness that got it wrong, and they're not moving forward with the same acceleration you're experiencing. While you're ascending into new levels of influence and recognition, they remain stuck in the limited perspectives that caused them to miss the truth you were sharing. Understanding this dynamic helps you maintain appropriate boundaries with those who find your emergence threatening to their sense of superiority. Their resistance isn't actually about your gifts, it's about their fear of examining beliefs that would require fundamental changes in how they understand consciousness, prophecy, and divine communication. But divine justice operates behind the scenes in ways that handle this resistance without requiring your direct involvement. Conversations are occurring where your name is mentioned with newfound respect. Opportunities are being orchestrated that will demonstrate your gifts to audiences who appreciate rather than resent your spiritual authority. Connections are forming that will amplify your voice beyond anything you've previously experienced. The universe is systematically removing obstacles while simultaneously positioning you for maximum impact among people hungry for authentic prophetic guidance. This process happens with mathematical precision that ensures your energy is directed toward receptive audiences rather than being wasted on those who remain committed to spiritual blindness. Over the coming weeks, you'll witness undeniable evidence of how you've overcome every obstacle specifically designed to test your divine mission. Each challenge that once appeared to block your progress is transforming into confirmation of your resilience and spiritual authority. Circumstances that previously caused frustration are becoming testimonies that demonstrate your ability to maintain faith despite contradictory appearances. But here's the specific timeline you need to understand. The next 7 to 14 days will be particularly significant for witnessing these transformations. 7 is the number of divine completion, and you're about to see how you overcame all the odds that were stacked against you. Each obstacle that once felt like a stumbling block is now revealing itself as a gift that prepared you for this moment of triumph. Imagine 7 boxes that once represented 7 different areas where you faced opposition to your insights. Maybe one box represented family members who questioned your judgment. Another box contained professional colleagues who dismissed your predictions. A third box held financial advisors who thought your preparations were unwise. A fourth box included friends who worried about your mental state. Each box initially appeared to contain problems, criticism, or obstacles that made your journey more difficult. But now, during this 7-day period of vindication, each of those boxes is transforming into gifts that confirm your spiritual authority. The family members who questioned your judgment are now asking for your advice. The professional colleagues who dismissed your predictions are now seeking your insights for their own decisions. The financial advisors who criticized your preparations are now amazed by your strategic positioning. The friends who worried about your mental state are now celebrating your obvious connection to divine intelligence. Every single area where you faced resistance is converting into confirmation that you are operating from divine wisdom, while others remain trapped in limited thinking. This isn't coincidental timing. This is supernatural orchestration that demonstrates how divine justice transforms opposition into opportunity with mathematical precision. Every vindication during this period serves as proof that you were never delusional, unrealistic, or disconnected from truth. You were operating on divine timing that required patience while cosmic forces aligned to support manifestations that seemed impossible to limited consciousness. Your willingness to stand in truth despite external pressure positioned you to receive maximum benefit when the harvest season finally arrived. The acceleration happening in your timeline isn't temporary, it's permanent upgrade into operating from enhanced spiritual authority and creative capacity. Universal forces that have been building behind the scenes are now working openly on your behalf, creating momentum that will continue expanding your influence and abundance as long as you maintain alignment with divine purpose. This isn't just personal transformation, it's cosmic realignment that affects every relationship, opportunity, and creative project in your sphere of influence. People who previously dismissed your insights will witness changes in their own lives that confirm the accuracy of guidance they rejected. Situations will develop that prove your warnings could have prevented problems they're now experiencing. The evidence accumulating around your prophetic accuracy creates credibility that opens doors to influence you've been preparing for throughout your journey. Each confirmation of your divine connection strengthens your platform for serving larger audiences with the spiritual guidance they desperately need. This moment of vindication represents your complete emergence into the fullness of your chosen one identity. The healing occurring in your consciousness creates space for unprecedented levels of confidence, creativity, and global influence. You're being recalibrated to operate from authentic power without fear or doubt that may have limited your expression in previous seasons. The divine timing now working in your favor will continue accelerating manifestations as long as you maintain alignment with your highest truth. This isn't a temporary phase, it's permanent installation into enhanced spiritual authority that positions you to serve divine purposes on scales you've never imagined possible. Everything you've endured has prepared you for this season, when your voice will be heard by those ready to receive divine guidance. Your insights will be valued by communities seeking spiritual wisdom, and your predictions will be recognized as legitimate prophetic ministry rather than random speculation. The greatest healing of your lifetime is beginning as you embrace complete acceptance of your chosen one identity and step into the powerful destiny that has been orchestrated through every challenge, every rejection, and every moment of standing alone in truth that others couldn't perceive. Your vindication cascades beyond this single demonstration into permanent transformation of your reputation, your influence, and your capacity to serve divine purposes through prophetic ministry. You're not just receiving validation, you're collecting manifestation of the abundant life you've always been destined to experience. The same people who dismissed your predictions are witnessing the emergence of someone who operates from divine authority rather than seeking human approval. Your confidence isn't dependent on their validation, because your connection to divine intelligence transcends their understanding and limitations. The circle completes itself as you stand vindicated in ways you predicted, prepared for conditions others couldn't foresee, receiving abundance they couldn't position themselves to collect. This pattern will replay throughout your future in countless variations as your prophetic gifts continue opening doors, creating opportunities, and demonstrating divine favor that confirms your chosen one identity beyond any possibility of doubt. You weren't wrong about any of it. You were just ahead of your time, and now your time has arrived with the force of divine vindication that transforms everything in its path. What you predicted was just the beginning of abundance that will continue flowing as long as you maintain your position as someone who operates from divine timing rather than human limitation. This is your complete emergence, chosen one. The healing has begun, the vindication is flowing, and your influence is expanding into the global platform you were always destined to occupy. Everything you carried in faith is now manifesting in abundance that exceeds your wildest expectations because you understood divine timing when others only saw impossible circumstances. Stand in your vindication, collect your abundance, and prepare for the next level of prophetic ministry that will establish your reputation as someone who consistently receives and shares divine intelligence with accuracy that transforms communities and serves cosmic purposes beyond human understanding.